The archives call me Dr. Kyrex, though names matter little now. I am a xenoanthropologist at the Galactic Cultural Preservation Center, where we catalog the dead and forgotten. For 30 cycles, I have studied extinct species, their final words preserved in crystal matrices and quantum echoes. None have haunted me like the humans. The official records state they are extinct. Annihilated, they say, after a 30-year resistance that should have been impossible. Yet here I sit, listening to a signal that shouldn't exist, emanating from coordinates where Earth once orbited its yellow star. Not a distress beacon, not a warning. A poem. I first heard of humans during my academy years. They were footnotes in xenobiology texts, cautionary tales in diplomatic courses. A young species, barely spacefaring, who made first contact with a Gabriaki Dominion and somehow survived the encounter. The professors spoke of their recklessness, their primitive nature, their dangerous unpredictability. They never mentioned the poetry. The signal arrived 3 rotations ago, cutting through subspace with crystal clarity. Every listening post from the core world to the rim detected it simultaneously, defying physics as we understand it. The message was brief, repeating endlessly in a frequency that made my scales itch and my secondary heart skip beats. Morning song calls through vacuum cold. Red wings spread where stars grow old. We who fell still touch the sky. Earth broke first, but we don't die. The Galactic Council dismissed it as an echo, a ghost signal from the war. They are wrong. I have analyzed the quantum signature, traced the transmission vectors. This signal originates from real time, from the present moment, from a region of space that should be nothing but radioactive debris and gravitational anomalies. My research has taken me deep into classified archives, past security protocols that exist to protect comfortable lies. The truth about humanity's end is not what the galaxy believes. We tell ourselves they were aggressors, that the Gabriaki acted in self-defense, that the destruction of Earth was a necessary tragedy. These are the stories we need to sleep at night. The reality is far more disturbing. In the beginning, Earth was just another pre-FTL world, rich in resources, strategically located. The Gabriaki saw opportunity where the Galactic Charter saw protected territory. They manufactured evidence of human aggression, manipulated sensor data, created a narrative that justified their invasion. The Council, weary of enforcing regulations in frontier space, looked the other way. They expected humanity to fall within cycles. The Gabriaki had conquered dozens of worlds, their thermal lances and gravity weapons making them nearly invincible. Earth's defenses were laughable by galactic standards. Chemical rockets, nuclear weapons, primitive energy shields. The invasion fleet arrived with enough firepower to crack continents. What happened next shattered every military doctrine in known space. The humans didn't just resist. They adapted. Within months, they had reverse-engineered Gabriaki technology, turning the invaders' own weapons against them. Their scientists worked without sleep. Their engineers performed miracles with scrap metal and determination. But it wasn't their technology that terrified the galaxy. It was their refusal to surrender, even when surrender was the only logical choice. I've seen the footage suppressed from public records. Human cities burning under orbital bombardment, yet their radio channels filled not with despair, but with music. Children's voices singing in bunkers while plasma fire turned the sky orange. Scientists working on weapons designs while their laboratories crumbled around them. Poets broadcasting verse into the void as continents fractured. The Red Bird changed everything. The ship appeared in the 3rd year of the war, assembled in hidden shipyard from salvaged Gabriaki vessels and human ingenuity. Its hull was painted crimson, marked with the image of a phoenix rising from flames. Where other ships relied on shields and armor, the Red Bird had something else. The collective rage and determination of a species pushed too far. The Red Bird never lost an engagement. Its crew seemed to know enemy tactics before they were executed, appeared in systems before invasion fleets arrived, struck its supply lines with surgical precision. Some said its captain could see the future. Others claimed the ship itself was alive, powered by the ghosts of Earth's dead billions. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humans had learned to think like their enemies, to predict their movements, to turn their strengths into weaknesses. They fought not just with weapons, but with psychology, turning the Gabriaki's own fears against them. I've interviewed survivors from both sides. The Gabriaki speak of human soldiers who fought while mortally wounded, who rigged their own bodies with explosives rather than be captured, who sang battle hymns as their ships burned. They describe something that military texts call berserker protocols, but which humans simply called protecting home. The war spread beyond Earth's system. Human refugee fleets scattered across the galaxy, not fleeing, but seeding resistance. They shared their reverse-engineered technology with other species under Gabriaki rule. They taught the oppressed to fight back. They turned a local conflict into a galactic uprising. The story of Azure haunts me most. She was an engineer aboard the flagship Defiance, a woman who had lost her entire family in the first bombardment of Earth. When the ship's fusion core began to fail during a critical battle, she entered the radioactive chamber without protective gear, manually stabilizing the reaction long enough for her crew to escape. They found her body fused to the control panel, her final message carved into the metal with her own fingernails. Stars remember our names. The poem she left behind, transmitted on all frequencies as the Defiance exploded, caused 3 Gabriaki commanders to desert and 2 to take their own lives. The galaxy watched in horrified fascination as humanity fought a war they couldn't win, yet refused to lose. Every victory cost them dearly. Every defeat only made them more determined. They turned their entire civilization into a weapon, their culture into ammunition, their very extinction into a threat. By the war's end, Earth itself was uninhabitable. The Gabriaki had scorched the surface, poisoned the oceans, shattered the moon. But humanity had extracted a price that broke their empire. The Redbird's final mission targeted the Gabriaki homeworld itself, not to destroy it, but to leave a message, a garden's worth of Earth seeds scattered across their capital, growing in defiance of death. The official records claim all humans died when Earth fell. The classified files tell a different story. They speak of scattered fleets vanishing into dark space, of colonies hidden in asteroid fields and dead systems, of the Redbird sighted in impossible locations across decades. The signal I'm analyzing comes from beyond the galactic rim, from regions we thought empty. Its quantum signature matches human technology, but with modifications that shouldn't be possible. Someone, somewhere, is still transmitting, still fighting, still remembering. My colleagues think I've lost objectivity. They remind me that humans are extinct, that ghost signals are common in post-war space, that trauma can make us see patterns where none exist. They don't understand why I keep listening to the poem, why I've memorized every syllable, why I wake at night hearing its rhythm in my heartbeat. But I've studied the intercepted communications from the war's final days. I've seen the messages between human ships, the plans they made for survival, the coordinates they shared for regrouping. They spoke not of endings, but of beginnings, not of death, but of transformation. If they burn our world, one captain transmitted, we become the fire. The poem continues to broadcast, its signal growing stronger with each passing day. Sometimes I hear variations, additional verses that speak of journey and return, of children born between stars, of gardens growing in void. The mathematics are impossible, the physics broken, yet the signal persists. Last night, I detected something new in the transmission. Beneath the poetry, almost too faint to register, runs a data stream. Military codes, navigation charts, ship registries, the infrastructure of a civilization that refuses to die. The Redbird lives. The humans live. Somewhere in the dark between galaxies, they're rebuilding, preparing, remembering. The war never ended for them. They simply moved it beyond our reach, beyond our understanding, beyond our ability to finish what we started. I submitted my report to the council this morning. They classified it immediately, buried it in archives that few will ever access. They fear panic, fear the economic consequences of admitting that humanity survived, fear most of all that the humans might return. But I know the truth now. The signal isn't meant for us. It's meant for them, for the scattered human fleets, for the hidden colonies, for the children born on ships between stars. It's a gathering call, a reminder, a promise. The earth broke, yes. Continents cracked, oceans boiled, the sky itself caught fire. But humans? Humans adapted. Humans evolved. Humans became something we no longer recognize, something that broadcasts poetry through impossible physics and builds civilizations in the void between galaxies. They're out there, in the dark places we dare not explore, growing stronger, teaching their children the old songs and the new sciences, turning their exile into evolution, their defeat into transcendence. The galaxy sleeps uneasily now, not because we destroyed humanity, but because we didn't. We merely freed them from the constraints of a single world, taught them to embrace the infinite dark, gave them a reason to become something more than human. The poem changes sometimes, new verses appearing in the transmission. Last night I heard this. We are the seeds in stellar wind, the song that darkness cannot end, the children of a broken earth, who found in death a second birth. I've stopped trying to convince my colleagues. They'll understand eventually, when the signs become impossible to ignore, when trade routes report strange sightings, when colony worlds find earth plants growing in impossible places, when children are born knowing songs their parents never taught them. The humans are coming back, not as they were, but as they've become. The war transformed them into something between legend and nightmare, between poetry and physics, between death and deathlessness. I keep the signal playing in my office now. Some days, I swear I can hear individual voices in the static, messages within messages, stories within stories. They speak of Azure and the Redbird, of gardens in vacuum and cities between stars, of a people who refused to break even when their world did. My name is Dr. Kyrex, and I have seen the truth that our civilization tries to hide. We didn't destroy humanity. We unleashed them. We taught them that survival sometimes requires becoming something more than what you were. We showed them that death is just another frontier to cross. The morning song continues, transmitted from coordinates that exist outside our maps. Each day brings new harmonies, new verses, new impossibilities. Sometimes I think I understand what they're building out there in the dark. Sometimes I wish I didn't. But one thing is certain. They remember us. They remember what we did. They remember why they had to leave and why they'll one day return. The earth broke before the humans did. That was our first mistake. Thinking it would break them was our second. I wonder if we'll survive our third. The signal strengthens as I write these words, as if responding to my thoughts. The poem has changed again, a new verse echoing through my office. Count the stars and count your fears, for we grow stronger through the years. The red bird flies where none can see, and Earth's children remain free. I've decided to transmit my own response tonight, breaking every protocol in the Xenoanthropology Handbook. A simple message, broadcast on the same frequency as their poem. We remember Azure. We remember the cost. We're sorry. Perhaps they'll hear it. Perhaps they'll understand that not all of us supported the war, that some of us learned from our mistakes, that fear and guilt haunt our dreams as much as their poetry. Or perhaps they're beyond caring about our regrets. Perhaps they've become something so far removed from their origins that our guilt means nothing to them now. Perhaps they're simply waiting, watching, growing in the spaces between stars where we dare not follow. The official records still call them extinct. The classified files speak of containment and monitoring. But I know the truth. Somewhere beyond the rim, beyond the dark, beyond the edges of our understanding, humanity thrives. They've become the stories we tell our children to make them behave. The songs we sing when we need courage. The nightmares that wake us in the cold hours before dawn. They've become exactly what they needed to become to survive. More than human, less than gods, forever balanced between poetry and war. The morning song continues. I continue to listen. And sometimes, in the static between verses, I hear laughter. They're not coming back for revenge. That would be too human, too limited, too much like us. They're coming back because the galaxy is vast and full of wonders, because their children deserve to see the stars their parents died to protect, because poetry shared across light years is still poetry. They're coming back because they can, because we taught them that impossible is just another word for challenge, because the Red Bird was never just a ship, and Azure was never just an engineer, and Earth was never just a planet. They were ideas, and ideas, as humanity proved, are bulletproof. The signal is changing again. New data streams beneath the poetry, coordinates and star charts, and what might be blueprints for technologies we can't begin to understand. They're not hiding anymore. They're announcing themselves, letting us know they're out there, giving us time to prepare for their return. Not for war. We've had enough of that. But for something else, something that might be harder for our rigid civilizations to handle. Forgiveness and integration, poetry and progress, the chance to become more than what we are. The humans broke free when Earth broke beneath them. They scattered like seeds on stellar winds, took root in impossible soil, grew into something beautiful and terrible and strange. They became the bridge between what was and what could be, between death and transcendence, between the poetry of endings and the promise of beginnings. My name is Dr. Kyrex, and I have heard humanity sing across the void. Their morning song calls through vacuum cold. Their red wings spread where stars grow old. They who fell still touch the sky, for Earth broke first, but they didn't die. They evolved. They adapted. They overcame. And now, they're coming home. The signal pulses stronger tonight, and I recognize it for what it is. Not a distress call, not a warning, not even a poem anymore. It's an invitation, a hand extended across the vast dark, offering a second chance at first contact. This time, I hope we're wise enough to take it. The morning song continues, will always continue, as long as there are humans to sing it and stars to carry their voices. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, between breaths, between the ending of one story and the beginning of another, I hear them clearly. We are the children of broken Earth, who found an ending a new birth. We carry songs through cosmic night and paint the void with human light. The red bird flies still. The poetry endures. And humanity, transformed by trial and tempered by loss, prepares to teach the galaxy a new definition of civilization. Their fragility, we're learning, was never a weakness. It was a chrysalis. And what emerged from it has wings that span galaxies and songs that shake the foundations of space-time itself. We thought we broke them. Instead, we helped them become unbreakable. That's the real terror, the truth that keeps our leaders awake at night. Not that humanity might return for revenge, but that they might return with forgiveness. That they might show us what we could become if we, too, learn to break properly. If we, too, learn to turn our endings into beginnings. The morning song calls through vacuum cold. The red bird spreads its wings where stars grow old. And humanity, neither living nor dead, but something beyond both, prepares to teach the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't strength. Sometimes it's the ability to transform pain into poetry, loss into legend, death into something that refuses to die. They're coming home, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as teachers, as the living proof that evolution sometimes requires revolution, that survival sometimes demands transformation, that the price of transcendence is everything you were and nothing you're afraid to become. The signal ends with a new verse tonight, one that makes my scales shiver and my heart beat in an ancient rhythm. We return not for the past we lost, but for the future that it cost, to teach the stars to sing our song, and show the weak they can be strong. I transmit my response into the void, knowing they're listening, we're ready to learn, because that's what humanity taught us in the end, that the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemies, but in transforming them into students, that the greatest revenge isn't in taking lives, but in changing minds, that the greatest power isn't in weapons or ships or technology, but in the ability to make others see the universe through your eyes. The morning song continues. The red bird flies eternal. and humanity, scattered like stardust across the cosmos, prepares to return not to reclaim their world, but to share what they learned in losing it. Earth broke before the humans did. That was our mistake. Thinking they needed Earth to remain human was our misunderstanding. They become something more, something that carries Earth within them wherever they go, something that plants gardens in void and writes poetry on the fabric of space-time itself. And now they're coming home, not to the planet we destroyed, but to the galaxy we share. Not as humans, but as what humans became when they learned that sometimes you have to die to truly live. The signal fades as dawn approaches my world, but I know it will return tomorrow and the day after, and every day until they arrive. Because that's what humans do. They persist. They endure. They transform everything they touch, including themselves. My name is Dr. Kyrex, and I have heard humanity's morning song. I have seen the redbird in my dreams. I have felt the weight of their poetry in my bones. And I know, with certainty that transcends science and approaches faith, that the greatest chapter of human history isn't what they were or what they lost, but what they're becoming. The galaxy waits, trembling and hopeful for their return. The morning song plays on, and somewhere between the stars, the children of Earth prepare to teach us all what it truly means to be human, even when human is no longer what you are, especially then.